RAD Radio presents the RAD pROBcast.
Joining me on the pROBcast this week is Shelby Elias from United Wholesale Lending and FinanceWithShelby.com. Hi there.
Hey.
Thanks for coming back.
Yes, absolutely.
You're one of our most popular guests on the regular live show. But what happens with that is you come in and you get inundated with questions.
Yeah.
After you right away have something exciting to tell us, and the emails come in and the phone calls come in. And I know you love that. The last time I think that you were on the live show, you talked about the thrill of the unknown question that'll come in. But we don't do that on the pROBcast because it's designed to let us kind of take control of the conversation. And I know that people, when they see that you're on, they're going to be like, oh boy, Rob and Shelby are going to tell me how to get rich. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But we've never really spent any time on the show talking about who you are. So how old are you?
I am, let me think.
You're getting to that point?
You stop counting after a certain age. I just had my 38th birthday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been successful?
Well, it depends how you define success.
Did you play sports in high school?
But I did. I played sports in high school. I played baseball, basketball, and soccer.
Good at all of them?
Pretty much.
You seem
I worked really hard.
You seem like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And it's the work is the key, right?
It is.
Would you call yourself naturally athletic?
I was definitely naturally athletic, but it really comes down to the work and understanding the work at a young age. I think I mentioned one time on the air, maybe not, but I was a child actor when I was growing up. It was just a way that my parents could make money, and so they put me into that. But I learned my work ethic through that because I would go on auditions almost every single day, and I would get turned down every day. Like, thanks for coming in. We'll give you a call back. No call back. No call back. No. So every day I'm picking myself up, starting from zero, and I think that helped mold who I am. And then, I would say I thought that I was successful at probably age 19. I really started to define success. But looking back on it now, really, I really was always successful in its own, in my own position.
So you already answered
successful.
College. One of the obvious follow-up questions was, have you ever failed? And childhood acting, you at the audition. Did you ever, anybody's ever seen you in?
Well, I was on like some national commercials, so like a Milky Way commercial. I was on Marine World commercials.
About what age range are you doing this?
Probably from maybe 7 till freshman or sophomore in high school.
Now, you said your parents got you into it. Was this something you wanted to do, or was this a direction that they steered you in?
Honestly, it wasn't. It was. We grew up not having any money, and my parents were looking for any possible way to get money. So they're like, holy cow, Shelby has a great personality. He could probably do this. So they got me into like one of those Marbazon, things, and it started off kind of like as a gimmicky thing. And then they kind of learned like, hold on, there's levels to this. And I got a real agent, and then, the agent would make money, on me. My parents would make money, and, they would let me, every time I got a commercial, they let me buy one thing. And it was cool. It was a great experience, and it really did help mold me.
So what was it that around 19 was going on that made you think because that's pretty young to be thinking I'm successful before you realize, well, actually I've always worked hard and been good at. What was happening at 19 that made you think that?
I started making a lot of money, really, and that's why I said it depends on how you define success. In today's world, I define success a lot different than when I was 19. So 19, it was just really about money, and it was a mortgage boom, and I was in mortgage, so we were making a lot of money, and it was fun. I was able to really help my parents out during that time too, because I was literally making money, and I would give it all to my mom. My mom would keep the money in like a savings account. It would help them out too. And then she would literally, I saw roommates and stuff at the time. She'd be like, okay, here's $1,000. Go ahead and blow it. And I didn't even have a concept of how much money I was actually making. It was just, I knew I was making a lot of money. There was no way I could spend it. I couldn't go to a nightclub or anything. I didn't want to live on my own. I didn't want to buy a house.
19, you're in that vortex age. There's nothing to do.
There was nothing. It was like, okay, cool. I bought a nice car. Can I make my car payment? Awesome. This is success.
So what got you into the mortgage industry right away, right out of high school?
Well, so I wasn't even out of high school. I actually went to college when I was 17. So I started in college very young, and I got kind of catapulted in this world. I had a standard for myself to where I wanted, things that I didn't get to have when I was a kid. And that's really what sparked everything. My drive really came from that. And so right after it, when I got into a 4-year, that's when I learned about mortgage. So I went to a JC first, did 2 years at a JC, transferred to Sac State. And when I went to Sac State, that's when I met the alumni of the Sigma Chi fraternity that I was in. And the alumni said, hey, this is a requirement. You need to pick a mentor. And I said, hey, who's the most successful guy here? I don't care what industry he's in. Who's the most successful guy that has ever been in this fraternity? It was a man named Cody Stein, and he took me under his wing and taught me how to do loans.
So was the desire to make money, to have the things that you didn't have when you were young, the driving force? And that guy you could have gotten a mentor in almost any industry, and if they said this is how you make a ton of money, you would have gone in that direction?
Yes. And honestly, what it wasn't so much a money goal. It was a lifestyle. It was having things that I wanted that I didn't have access to as a kid. Being able to take care of my parents, that was a huge motivator. Was just, man, this is really unfair. Those 4 boys in my family, we literally had different color carpet in every single room in my house, like red, orange, like it was no joke. And we only had 1 car. My dad rode a bike to work. He worked at a cardboard box factory. My mom was the only one with a car. So it was a life that I kind of saw, and I saw other people have. And it was more about the lifestyle. How do I get here? And then I reverse engineered that. And I'm like, I don't care how I get there. Will I be able to have this lifestyle with this career? And that's where it started.
Have you now at 38, have you met or exceeded the lifestyle that you were hoping to get when you were 17 or so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, and that changes, and that's, I'd say that you really grasp, what success is in your later years. When you really start to figure out, like, okay, I got that new car, I got that new watch or whatever. And the moment you get it, it's like, okay, what's next? That wasn't even that cool. And you're chasing this void. And then you really start to figure out that time is the currency. How do I buy back my time? So for so many years, from I'd say 19 till 27 years old, I had no time, and it stunk. I thought it was great, but it wasn't. It wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. So now, you learn how important that time is, and how much that plays into success.
So I have an expression that I coined like 20 years ago or so, when we were talking on the show about being successful, trying to be successful, getting ahead, things like that. And it was important for me to delineate what you're alluding to there about how you define success. But I didn't want to diminish the importance of money. Because, the phrase is money buys happiness. Well, I'm sure you know plenty of people with a lot of money that are very miserable people. Yeah. Or certainly are not anywhere near content. So I couldn't argue that money buys happiness. Mm-hmm. But what I could argue, and I still argue to this day, is that money buys happierness. Because everything in life is easier when you don't have to worry about insert here. Mm-hmm. Your mortgage payment. Can I keep the electricity on? I mean, you and I are still going to have terrible days. Yeah. Our dogs are going to die, and that's awful. But at least we're not worried about, can we pay to have them cremated? Yeah. And so when I hear you talking about growing up and then envisioning this lifestyle, it's a perfect example of how money buys happiness. And then there's this other side to success. You're talking about time. Mm-hmm. I know also your family and your friends, just from the time we spent together, are wildly important to you. Yeah. You last time when we were golfing, you were getting ready for a weekend where you were having people come from all over the country. Well, I guess the western part of the country to, I think it was Tahoe, and you guys were just going to spend the weekend, friends, family, weekend, and kids, and you were glowing about it. Mm-hmm. I think it was the happiest I saw you that day. I mean, you were happy all day, but you were like effusively happy over it. So how big of a role is all of that in your life?
Well, I think that, everybody's wired different, right? So if you were blessed enough to have success and to have that motivation and that drive and, essentially even a chip on your shoulder, I had a chip on my shoulder that I had something to prove, and not everybody has that. So if I am blessed enough to have that, I need to look at the people that allow me to succeed. There's so many people. I mean, my friends make me happy. Their kids make my kids happy. Their wives make my wife happy. And you have this massive team surrounding you that allows you to have what you determine to be success. So it's very important to me that I'm taking care of all of those people, right? I read something the other day. It talked about get revenge or payback. Get payback on the ones that have actually helped you get to where you wanted to go. You have those people in your corner that'll do anything for you, and pay them back. Don't get payback on your enemies. Pay your friends back for the life that they've allowed you to have. It's so important to me that I'm sharing all of those experiences that I have with everybody who's helped me get to where I'm at. So
if anybody that follows you on Instagram, you're pretty open about you spending time with your family and your friends, and it seems like you've been traveling a lot lately and for fun stuff. I remember, I don't remember how long ago, a couple months ago, you were up in Alaska on a fishing trip with a bunch of your buddies. It looked like. And it seems like you're doing a whole bunch of that. Is that the element of the time that you're trying to get back, quote unquote?
I am. So you got to design your life, right? And it's very important to me. So I write it down. What do I want my life to look like? And am I getting there? Am I accomplishing those goals? So there's a lot of aspect of fun, but what people don't see, even on my Instagram, people are like, why do you post that? Why do you post the jets and all the stuff, right? Well, for one, that kind of stuff inspires me. It inspires, people different. And I'm not going to hide who I am. You get the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything. It's like, this is who I am. But what people don't realize is when they see the jet, it's everybody that was on that jet with me going to Vegas. We're going for a convention. It was work. Okay. Now, all of those people, I'm providing them with an experience. I paid for that jet. And those are all my employees that do great work for me. They helped me get there. So it wasn't like, oh, he's just taking a jet with his friends. Yeah, my friends are the people that are connected to me. They're the people that work for me, people that are helping me. And so for one, it's a great write-off. For two, it provides you with experiences, which I'm all about. But the element that people don't see is it's still work. They want to work for me because I provide them with these experiences. And they want to, be on my team. So a lot of that is that. We went on this crazy Miami trip, same type thing. It was with the top 10 mortgage brokers in the country. So people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, you and your friends out. No, actually, that was a complete work event. I took the top mortgage brokers in the country. We all did a retreat together. We brought our wives. We had some fun. We designed the retreat around learning. Also, how do we help each other grow, building those friendships up? And I'm learning from other guys that are doing the same thing that I'm doing, same mission that I'm on in non-competing markets. So it's a win-win. But what people don't see is the real back end of that. And you got to mix it all in. You mix your work, your fun, your family, your friendships, put it all in one. And it's a winning recipe.
I think that's one of the sadder things that I see too much is that either because of situations or attitudes or both, people don't realize that work can be fun. And that even though it might be hard or time consuming, you can enjoy it. And you can actually, like in your examples, you can have fun and work and combine the two things.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, do you ever stop? Do you ever just plop on the sofa?
If you ask my wife, yes. And she hates it because she doesn't stop. My wife
she's the Energizer Bunny.
She's a machine. I mean, you cannot get her to relax. But yes, I do. I wake up extremely early and I attack the day with excitement because there's so much that I have to do. And I focus on the things that I love, like this, it's work. I get business from it. I have relationships that come out of it, but I actually enjoy this. Like I look forward to this stuff. So it's mixing it in. But yeah, when I get home, I'm watching the World Series right now. It's great. But there's a lot of weird tics that I have. Like I listen to very little very little radio, which sounds cliche, and that's why I said podcast, because I was like, oh, should I even say this on the radio? But I don't really listen to the radio very much. I don't really watch very much regular TV. It's like a structured, thing. I'm going to watch this show or I'm going to watch this thing. So I don't burn a lot of time. I think that kind of answers that. Do you know where you got your confidence, your self-assuredness, your belief in yourself? As you say, you're very unapologetic about who you are for the most part. Yeah, I'm very confident in who I am, and I think that I'm a great person, and I do right. I think that might come a lot from my faith, So it's like, I'm confident in that. I'm confident in my own abilities. I'm very confident in my ability to achieve a specific outcome. And I think I learned that at a very young age. I think that's what's helped me in life, is knowing that if you put in the work, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I never have been. But I know that you will not outwork me, right? It's like Will Smith said it once on I will die on the treadmill. You might be smarter than me. You might be better looking than me. You might be more talented than me. But I will not be outworked. If me and you went on a treadmill together, one of two things is going to happen. I'm going to win or I'm going to die. I love that. And it's so funny that you cite that, because any longtime listeners know I have cited that exact interview. Love it. So many times, because me too. Just absolutely loved it. Yep. I saw something on your Instagram page months ago, and it was the first time that I actually realized that you were a person of faith. I think you were sitting out. I think you were in Lake Tahoe. Not sure. It was an early morning thing, and you phrased the caption in some way about the day that God had made. It was a very familiar phrase. Yeah. And I went, oh, wow, now here's this guy that I'm getting to know, very successful. I had no idea because you don't walk around forcing it on people or shoving it in people's face, but you also aren't ashamed of it. Did you grow up religious? Was it just from the beginning as a kid? I don't think that we grew up. Depending upon how old, yeah. But yeah, maybe at 10, 11 years old, at an age, my parents never really like forced it on me. It was like, hey, this is what we believe, and you have a choice too. And they wanted it to be my choice, which, I really loved. And it was like, wow, this is kind of cool. You want to kind of feel that the feelings that you get and make the distinction for yourself. And, that's kind of how it was. My wife wasn't very religious when we met. All good. I still loved her, and wasn't a deal breaker for you. No, we have the freedom to live our own lives, and everybody does. You choose whatever you want. It's all good. But, then once my wife kind of started to get more involved, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go to church, or I'm going to go and, I got a men's group to go to tonight, and it's like, wow, this is something that I believe, and I can feel it. And then she started to kind of feel it too, and that's kind of how we operate. And same with our kids. We don't go to church every Sunday. We're not that family. But when my kids do go and they have a connection, I want them to make that on their own choice. Their own freedom to choose whatever they want. So, by the way, how many kids do you have? I have two. How old? I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. Is the 6-year-old still skiing? That was the last thing I heard. Yeah, we spent a lot of time skiing. Yes, and my 3-year-old is very excited to get on the skis this year, and my wife skis too. It's something that we do as a family. We have family goals, which are great, and that's one of them. It's the most important thing to us. You mentioned earlier, used the phrase that you're not shy about who you are. You get the good, the bad, the ugly. What's the bad? Well, the bad is sometimes working, a lot. Right? My phone is bad. Like, my wife is going to love that I said that, but she hates me being on my phone. And I tell her, like, it actually makes me like a little bit emotional, because I know it's an issue. I definitely have an issue with being on my phone. I cannot let my phone down. I know my wife hates that. And I tell her all the time, please don't stop getting on me about my phone, because the day that you stop is the day that you don't care. It's powerful. Is big issue. Has it caused like problems? No real problems, but it's not really fair. Like, why am I attached to my phone.
Is it work? All
It's
work?
so insignificant.
Is it all work, or is it
No.
friends, everything?
Just ridiculous. Like, yeah, I communicate with so many people that I'm texting 250 people a day. And it's like, do you really need that many? Like,
is that a literal number?
I'm dead serious. I probably text 250 different individuals every single day.
Wow.
And so it's catching up with old friends and just people always. I'm just like, why not? Why not have conversations going on here and have conversations going on here and doing this? Like, I pack it all in there. And so that part never relaxes. And I'm constantly learning. I have this major desire to learn. If something sparks something that I want to know, I can't just figure it out later. I'm now on my phone researching that for 45 minutes. I'm like, hold on, babe. This is really awesome. And she's like, really? You're learning about how much car prices have gone up? And like, who cares? I'm like, well, hey, there might be some opportunity for us to sell your car.
Right.
And she's like, get out of here. What are you doing? We're at your son's soccer practice. You're an idiot. And I'm like, oh, I am. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
When we played golf last time, I saw you and I were talking about your Tesla, and you told me the story that because I keep asking Tesla owners if they love their Teslas, and I haven't gotten a no yet. Everybody loves them.
Yeah.
But you were telling me that a lot of times you'll put the self-driving feature on so that you can work while you're in the car and on your phone.
Yeah. It's absolutely retarded. Like, why would I do that? But the car legitimately drives better than me, for sure. It has radar on the front of the car, radar on the back of the car. It keeps you perfectly in the lane. You could select how many car lengths to trace the car in front of you and behind you. Like, it's better driver than me. But still, like, really? You can't just wait till you get to your destination? So, phone, definitely issue.
Well, the way you describe your obsession, if you will, with the phone, I would rather the car drive you, because I can't imagine that your mind is occupied by just driving.
Yeah,
because you're just not built that way.
I know.
Now, you said you're not necessarily always the smartest guy in the room, which is what everybody that I know who is successful acknowledges. Because I don't think any of us can walk into the room thinking that. We might think we're going to work harder, but we can't think that we're the smartest. But when you're telling me about how you grew up and how you wind up in college at, did you say 17? Is there an element of you? Have you ever been tested? Are you a genius in some way? I mean, is there something besides your work ethic?
I would say no. Like, I don't feel like I really am that smart. I make very good choices. I always make the right choice. You know, and it blows my mind that so many people actually know the choice that they should make, and they choose the wrong choice. So that's just something that I don't compromise on that. I make the right choices. I make educated decisions. I learn from other people who have already done it. Number one key to success: you do not know what you think you know. You can't just mix your own thoughts in. That's what everybody does. They're like, oh, I'm going to, do this or make this decision on, purchasing whatever. And then you have a friend over here, say you're going to buy a new car, and you're like, you have no idea. You've never bought a new car before. You don't know how the dealership works, but your best friend actually owns a car dealership. Then you go to your friend, which is the first step. Great. You're like, hey, can you tell me a little bit about how this works? I don't want to buy a Mercedes. I want to buy a Tesla, but will you just tell me how it works? And then he goes, this is exactly how it works. This is exactly what you need to do. And then you take a piece of that and you mix it with what you know. I don't do that. I take exactly what they told me to do. I abandon all of my own thoughts because they're completely irrelevant. And I do that. And I do that with every single aspect of my life. I find experts that are smarter than me. They tell me what to do, and I do it, and I execute.
That's a hard discipline, to maintain that complete commitment to what somebody else told you to do, even though you acknowledge they're the experts.
All results driven. Everything is results driven. When I go to the gym, I hate going to the gym. There's not people are like, oh yeah, you can love it, and don't you love that? No, I don't. But I love the results that it produces. So I don't care about if I like to do something. That's how I live. It's like, it's all results driven. What is the end game? What's the result that I get?
Do you know, was there a point in your life where you realized that you always make the right choice?
I mean, I'm realizing it a lot more now, like, wow, you're really good at making the right choices. And people have told me, my whole life, they're like, wow, you've made a lot of really good choices. But kind of seeing how my life has played out, I'm kind of in that zone. I've been working really hard for a really long time. You start off at 19 and you've been going full speed. I've worked a lot, and now looking back on it, I'm seeing all of those decisions coming into play, where it's like I knew that investing in cash flow and learning cash flow, because cash flow gives me my time back. I made a whole bunch of money, and I was spending a lot of money, and I knew that I was on this Ferris wheel of like constantly having to get new business and do all that, and I was flipping homes and had instant gratification. You buy the property, you fix it up, you flip it, you get the cash. And then I went to, well, I would rather have $1,000 a month than $100,000 all at one time. And $1,000 is going to grow because rents continue to increase, where the $100,000 is $100,000 right now. So learning about cash flow and now seeing it now, I'm like, wow, I own probably over 30 properties and they are all paying me cash flow. And so now I'm looking back and be like, wow, that hard road, I joke often, and I'm in that zone right now, is I am the richest broke guy that because all of my money goes out to investments, and a lot of times I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to buy this property because it's going to produce me with X amount of cash flow, but I don't have the money to buy this. What do I need to do? Okay, how many months do I have? Okay, if I do this, I make all these moves, I borrow from here, do this, then I can get it. How much more do I need to work? Well, how do I reverse engineer this? But now when I'm sitting back, I'm like, wow, look at all these decisions that have just come into play.
We talk on the regular show a lot about nothing breeds success like confidence, and nothing breeds confidence like success. And it's a chicken and egg thing, which is why I asked you the question originally, because I think, and that's why I asked you about sports too. I think that I started with confidence, which led me to making these choices early on in my career and stuff. But maybe it was because I had success as a childhood athlete. I don't know. Maybe they're intertwined. But I wasn't until about a little younger than you. So it's probably when you started to realize where I went, where I was doing that exact same thing. I was looking back going, hey, I always get it right. Even if it sucks, even if you forget sometimes that in the moment that you're that good. But and then you go, and what happens is once you realize it, and this seems like where you're at, it kicks you into a whole new level, because now that you're taking this inventory, realizing everything I have done has been right, well, then what's the limit? You have no limitations, because you're going to continue to make the right choice, and now you have the confidence of knowing that. And I think that is just one of the most empowering feelings. And it's not just, as we've defined here, work related. That's so important in relationships, parenting, everything else. That feeling of knowing, and it doesn't mean you don't do dumb stuff, right? You make mistakes.
Totally.
In the end, you get it right, and that is just such a powerful feeling. It is, and just to see you light up talking about it too is so great. Now you've alluded a lot to some of the Easter eggs of what people are hoping that we're going to give them, the key to being better, to finding more wealth or more contentment or more happiness or more, because I think you would agree. Not everybody has to make as much money as you. It's kind of what they define as what they need or what they want. But how do you get somebody started? I've been trying to help as many people as I can on this subject for 2 decades. But how would you start with somebody like that, no matter where they are in life?
Number one thing is your mindset. It's everything. You're going to roadblock yourself, and you have to push through that inner, because your mind's first, it's going to shut you down. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't have that. And you have to be able to shut that voice in your head down. And then the people that you're currently connected to, if they aren't already where you want to go, that's the hardest shift too. Because once you start to tell them about this new mindset and this new world that you might, possibly be able to get into, they're all going to start to shut you down too. And everybody says it's a lonely road, and it is. And you have to be confident on the inside, and you have to know that, hey, if that guy can do it, then I can do it. And it is so true. So then you start to feed your mind. And, like I was saying, it's podcasts give you great nuggets. Listen to the people that are already doing it and focus on one thing at a time. Don't try to take everything down. Take one little piece and execute, and take another little piece of info and execute, and go on this journey yourself. Don't look for somebody else to jump on and do this with you. You have to do it internally. And I think that it starts from your mindset. Get your mind right, and then you can start to execute.
What else do you see other than mindset, if that's going to be the pinnacle of or the starting point for you?
Yeah.
What do you see that holds people back? Aside from the mindset in general, what specific things do you see people do wrong or screw up?
So mortgage, it's your biggest financial investment, okay? And what I see a lot of people do is they don't have a goal of cash flow, which they don't really understand that concept.
We should probably take a moment to explain that. I know you alluded to it earlier.
Yeah, cash flow, what it is. And
what is it?
So basically cash flow is something that will pay you while you sleep. So it's an investment that you make that continues to pay you more than you're invested in. So I'll give you an example. You buy a property that has a mortgage on it of, say, $2,000, but the rent on it is it's $2,500. So the cash flow would be $500 per month. And then what you can look at is, on average, how much does rent increase? Because your mortgage payment is fixed. So at that point you say, well, I only owe $2,000 per month for my mortgage for 30 years. But every year rent increases 10%. So now I start off with a cash flow of $500, but in 10 years down the road, that $500 is actually going to cash flow, X amount. And then you can analyze that investment. So what I think cash flow is so important is because Social Security is not going to be an end game. It's not going to give you the life that you want to have when you so-called retire. So it's very important that if you want time and you want, wherever you're at in your life, you have to find things that will deliver cash flow. And those could be passive investments too. You find somebody like myself that is buying different projects and you get really comfortable with them and you build up a relationship. Maybe you invest in something to where it's going to provide you with a dividend, and you say, hey, I'm going to invest in this, and my return is going to be X. There's several opportunities like that. You just have to find the time to really get comfortable with it, really understand it, learn how to invest. But cash flow is so important.
So the thing, in terms of the things that hold people back, no understanding of cash flow. What else, basically? You see?
Some things that hold people back too is they shut themselves down. They don't realize that you have the ability to really do anything. You just have to find out what avenue, to get it from. So if you're looking to build cash flow, maybe you can refinance your mortgage and take out funds to be able to find a cash flowing asset. Something else that holds people back is not finding the right people that everybody has access to these types of people, but not reaching out and asking the right questions, asking people, hey, I see that you own rental properties. Let's talk about that. I do that all the time. I'm constantly reaching out. I just reached out to one of my clients because he buys big commercial properties. So when he called in, I was talking to him about it. And I was like, hey, what do you do? And he's like, well, I invest in large commercial properties. And so, I called him yesterday and I said, hey, Shane, do you have a couple moments to talk about this? I want to learn more about what you do. I've never bought a 50-unit apartment complex. How do I break down the deal? So what's holding people back is they're not actually reaching out. They're not asking the questions. You find somebody that's doing well and that's successful, reach out to them. Don't be scared to ask those questions and kind of do the homework.
There it is, though. I think a lot of what you're describing is fear. People are afraid even to, maybe in that last example, reach out because the person might say no. The person might be a jerk.
Yeah.
We break it down sometimes on the show, just talking about, asking girls out. People write in, as I get older and everybody else is younger in every room now, they'll ask for advice, like literally, how do I ask a girl out? I'm like, you just do it, because they can't eat you.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that can happen? They say no.
Yeah.
And Kyle, one of my producers, says that stands for next opportunity. And that's I'm sure you've been told no in your life.
Oh,
I'm sure
so
you've
many
been
times.
rejected.
Yeah.
And are you still here? You okay?
Yeah.
You living?
And you learn from that, right? I mean, I love that example because it's so true. And it goes back to what I was saying is you've seen other people do it. You've seen somebody that is the ugliest guy in the room with the hottest chick. You've seen somebody that's way older. You've seen it. It works. Just take a chance and go for it, So, you're exactly right. I think that the biggest thing that's holding people back is fear. Get over the fear.
So let's talk a little bit more about what you do specifically. So United Wholesale Lending, you own that? That your company?
Yep.
You started that yourself when?
Yep. I started in 2009. The company that I was working for prior went out of business.
2009, right after the crash?
Right. I actually started in 2007, but I didn't have it off of the ground yet. It took me a couple years to even get everything going. But yeah, I lost my job. And instead of being fearful and fearing, that world, I said, you know what? How do I make this work? Let me go through the trenches, get all of my own licensing. If I didn't have to pay another broker, and I didn't have to pay a company, what if I did the loans on myself, all by myself? Then could I get through this if I was able to earn 100%? So I sat down, I contacted other people that own mortgage companies, I learned, and I just built one brick at a time, one piece at a time, until I eventually opened up my company. And so we opened in 2009, worst time in history to own a mortgage company. We opened up a mortgage company and a real estate company at the same time because we were doing short sales and foreclosed properties on the real estate side. And on the mortgage side, we were just learning more about mortgage banking, building up relationships with the companies that were still there, and learning how to recruit. And that's how we got going.
You still love it?
There's parts of the business that I do love, right? I love coming up with the game plan. I love hearing what somebody has, looking into their financial position, and like I said, the right answers. I have the right answers. I love knowing that and feeling the confidence of that. So I love being able to direct somebody and be like, look, I know what you should do. This is how we're going to do it. All the details, no, I don't. I don't like chasing down documents, bugging people to call me back, being against timelines. And so I don't love that, but I have a great team that helps me with all that stuff. But I love taking those first calls, helping people come up with a game plan that I know is going to help them. What
do you see now and for the next many months? And whether it's specific to, because that's what you do, real estate and lending, but there's also a lot of trepidation right now over inflation, which seems like it could get really out of control. Supply chain issues. What do you see just in general, and then also for the housing market over the next 6-12 months?
It's a scary time. It is something that you have to be aware of, and you have to kind of understand what's going on. Something that I'm seeing is you see all of these shipping containers all over, okay? And you could look at that on social media and think, yeah, right, that's a bunch of hoopla, this is conspiracy. But I'm feeling it right now. I completed my own remodel at my house. I do not have a fridge. My wife's dad owns an appliance company. I don't have a fridge in my own house. It got ordered 8 months ago. how is that possible? So it's like 8 months to get a fridge. You try to order any furniture, the car thing. It's like these cars are going up in value. Car used to be a bad investment. Now it's a great investment. Why? Because you can't get cars. Mercedes said they discontinued all V8s into the foreseeable future. You can't buy a V8 Mercedes. Nope. Okay, all the V8 Mercedes just went up in value. Everything. It's literally impossible to buy a Rolex.
Tell me.
You cannot buy one. You go into the Rolex store, go into Devon's in the mall, you'll laugh. It looks like they got robbed. They don't have a single thing in the whole store. It's insane. So be aware of what's going on in those realms. I would say that you're looking at gas. Gas prices are going up. So start to think now, like, well, what if gas did go to $8, $10? Can you still afford to drive to work? If you can't, you should probably get into a more economical vehicle now. You should probably start carpooling right now. Start to plan for what might come. And, I would say that your money is best in actual tangible assets, because when inflation occurs, it is going to weaken the dollar. Okay. If it weakens the dollar, then the things that are going to matter the most is real estate. It's a tangible asset. People are going to pay you. They need a place to live. Now, why is real estate going to continue to go up? Because everything that goes into that house is harder to get. Can't get the fridge. Can't get the oven. The lumber is absolutely crazy. So they're not going to be building more homes when it costs more and it's harder to get those products. So if you have your money invested in real estate, it's only going to hold its value, whereas your dollar might continue to go down. Start to think about food supply chain. You go into the grocery store right now, eerie feeling. You're like, why is there no milk? This is weird. Well, start to think about some ways that you can feed your family on your own. You could grow your own stuff, grow your own corn, grow your own foods, have chickens. Like you just don't know what's going to happen, but you can prepare, and you don't want to prepare when it's too late.
So, yeah, you're describing being proactive as opposed to reacting, which is what I see too many people do. But you're also potentially describing to some people a pretty, I think apocalyptic is too much, but that maybe things are going to get really bad. Or are you just telling us to prepare for the possibility?
I'm just saying, like, read the writing that's written on the wall. I have no clue, but this is what I do know. You can't get products right now, and it's not going to get any better. You were mentioning when you were sick, now you're catching up. Well, if you only have so many ports and all these ships are on the ports, how do you unload them all? Well, they're everywhere. Like, the whole reason why I can't get my stove is because it's sitting on a ship out there.
You can't get your stove either?
No, sorry, my fridge. I got my stove.
I was going to say, what's in your kitchen?
I have a stove. I don't have a fridge. But that's all I'm saying is...
Well, and then the worker shortage, too.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so you've got this backlog. I think the last number I heard was 60 tankers in Southern California that need to be unloaded. Or not tankers, supply ships. But then the other problem is that when they come ashore, there's not enough people there to unload them. And so to your point about how or when or if do we ever catch up, there's also that issue. What is going on with the work ethic in this country, or the desire to work, or people not working? I think the labor participation number is down at right around 60%, which is 3 out of 5 of us that are able and capable of working are doing so, and the other 2 aren't. What is that about?
I wish I knew more about this topic to even really give my 2 cents. I really don't know.
Well, you can't relate to it, right? You can't relate to not working.
And I have lots of people that want to work for me, so I'm not feeling that.
Good.
But what I would say is that we gave a lot of handouts out, right? It was and a lot of them, people were taking advantage of it. I did not take a PPP loan. But a lot of people did. And I know a lot of people that took a PPP loan that didn't necessarily need a PPP loan. So now they're getting all of this free money. And then, people were getting paid more to sit on the sidelines and not work than to work. And it wasn't like this was a couple weeks or a month. This is like 2 years that people were getting this. So, Yeah, my younger brother, he was doing the same thing. He used to work at a gym as a personal trainer. Gyms got shut down, and he called me one day. I was like, oh my gosh, I've just saved up more money than I've ever had in my whole life. He's like, I have $7,000 in my bank account. I'm like, how? You haven't even been working. He's like, dude, I'm getting paid more being at home. So again, I can't really relate, but I can share with you what I do see. One thing is everybody was talking about in my world, the mortgage, right? Hey, when all these people come off of forbearance, there's going to be this huge, there was none.
Of course.
There was nothing that happened at all. I never even got calls at all. I'm literally at all from people saying, hey, I can't make my mortgage payment. It was always, hey, how do I take advantage of this forbearance thing? How do I not make it? Oh, can you make a payment? Yeah. But what if, how do I just like, can't I just like not make it?
Right. What's the angle?
Yeah. It's like, there was nobody that was like, hey, I really, can't. So not to say that obviously there was people that couldn't, but I wasn't getting those calls. It was more people that could. They got the assistance and they could still make it. So I don't know. I have all those rental properties. Not one person didn't pay me. Every single person paid. So it's just all my experiences.
Yeah, no, and it's a fascination of mine. It doesn't help a lot of people that are listening because I think a lot of them are wondering what the answer is too. And I get concerned over the fact that you're right. We're coming up on 2 years of various forms of assistance, even though they've scaled some of it back. Well, we haven't seen any improvement in labor participation, even as some of it gets scaled back. And I wonder if we've created a mindset, a complacency, a new lifestyle for people who have figured out how to, in addition to gaming the system, be perfectly comfortable living off of others, like even maybe their families who are very willing to help them. And how long can you not work and then still be productive or desirous of working?
Yeah.
One of my concerns is that when the entirety of the country or the majority of the country figures out, okay, we've got all the data, the pandemic's over. We've got to get closer to normal. Some of us did that a year ago, right? But a lot of people haven't. But when we get there, if you've been on the sidelines for a long time, I don't even know first of all, how driven you're going to be or how productive you can be. I don't know if that's the guy I'm hiring. Oh, you've been on your sofa for 2.5 years doing nothing?
Yeah. That's a great point, because I think a lot of people, what maybe might have happened is, because we learned a lot during this pandemic. We learned how to be self-sufficient from working at home and how to operate Zoom. What about the people that didn't learn anything from that because they didn't participate? Is the world now in a new realm and they're not even going to be able to get back into it? Because those people who worked through the pandemic had to be self-motivated, self-driven, and people that didn't participate are not self-motivated, they're not driven, and they got used to getting paid more than they were even making at their other job. So whereas other people are now more efficient, self-motivated, driven, they're onto a new, work ethic and a new utilizing technology, and other people aren't. I don't know.
That was one of those things that I don't say bothered me, but annoyed me in the midst of 2020. Yeah, the headlines, we get it. Amazon exploded, and I mean, like, they weren't already huge, right? But then we're all living at home, so we're all getting everything at home. But there was a lot of envy and anger over, to be completely candid, guys like you and me doing really well. And actually thriving during the pandemic. And what you just said is the truth. It's not about the rich getting richer. It's about the motivated and the smart and those that can pivot and those that can make really hard decisions and changes. Who the people that I know who thrived and are still thriving are all what you're describing in our own way.
And again,
it's not an accident.
What people think too is they think, when bad times hit, yeah, easy for you to say, right? I promise you, the pandemic happening was scarier for me than the average person, because what you don't realize is I have over 150 employees that their life and their family depends on me. And if I make a bad decision, then they all lose and I'm their leader. So it hit me way harder. But instead of curling up into a ball, I did exactly what you said. I pivoted. I said, okay, what do we need to do? I'm going to work. While everybody else is worried and hanging out, I'm sitting there going, okay, what do I need to do? What's the right decision? How do I do this? How do I get these people to be able to be efficient from home? None of them work from home. They all work out of my office. Oh my gosh. How do I even operate Zoom? I didn't know. We don't do Zooms. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Weekly Zoom meetings, this, that. I need a leadership meeting. We need to appoint this person, that person. Like it was crazy. But we pivoted, we got through it, and it's more stressful for me than other people realize, And
this brings us back to kind of early on when we were talking about success and confidence and knowing that you're always going to make the right choice. Because when I would say late March, early April, when the reality was so obvious of what was happening, I was terrified.
Yeah.
And I've got 5 employees, or, about 12 people that count on me directly. But then we've got all the indirect people, all the salespeople at the radio stations and other. And I was having panic attacks in my own little mini way, right? I'm sitting in my office scratching my head. And the only thing that kept me going was knowing I'm going to figure this out. I do know I'm going to figure this out. And that's where that knowing that you make the right choice thing becomes so important. Again, you have the stressful days. Money buys happiness, right? You were freaking out about 150 employees who count on you and rely on you. At least you weren't freaking out about knowing where your next meal was coming from, which allowed you to focus on that pivot.
You're right.
And then it comes back to the other things you were mentioning earlier. You got to have the drive and the willingness and not block yourself. And when you make a decision, realize I'm good at this. So we're going to go full steam ahead because I'm going to be proven right.
Yeah.
And I think that's people need more of that. And I kind of like you putting up pictures of the jet on Instagram. Sometimes people need to hear guys like you and me talk like this and hope that it motivates them or teaches them something.
Yep.
What haven't we told people about how to be successful, happy, independent, anything else?
Well, I think that maybe what a lot of listeners would want to learn is like, what are some of the things other than listening to the podcast, reaching out to people, learning from them, and like what are some avenues in today's world? And I'll kind of talk a little bit off topic. These are some things that are going through my mind. Okay, one. We live in an Amazon-driven society. People think, okay, well, that ship's already sailed. It hasn't sailed. That thing is still at the port, and they control everything right now. But not everybody's even adapted to it, and there's not even very many other players. So if you want to learn something, you have to figure it all. You got to go through. Winston Churchill quote is something like, "You got to go through hell in order to, whatever." I forget what the quote is, but basically it's gonna suck. You want it to suck. Everything you want is right on the other side of what you don't want to do. Know that. So if you think about Amazon, think about, how do I open up a store? There's this little company called Alibaba. What Alibaba is, this is one of the biggest publicly traded companies in the entire world, and no one in America knows what the heck is going on, but I'm about to tell you, this is how it all works, okay? Nothing is manufactured in the United States. Nothing at all. Literally nothing. So the reason why we're having these issues getting supply is because it's all coming from overseas. Literally every single thing in your whole life. So now you think about that as far as opportunity, okay? No one understands the reality of that. And this is why it's huge political debate about us not manufacturing anything in the United States. We will never be able to catch up to China. That's not the goal, because China has child labor and they've like slave labor that is so low that the United States can never compete. That's fine. But you as an individual, consumer or business owner, if you opened up your own store and you find products that are being manufactured from the website Alibaba, order some of them, things that you use in your own life. Some of the things that I'm looking at right now, I buy a lot of my toys from there because it's cool stuff that I don't want to pay retail for. So one of them being a foil. A foil is an electronic surfboard. If I were to buy it here in the United States, it's $10,000. I want one. I have a house in Tahoe that's on the water, and I want one, but I'm not paying $10,000. That's absolutely absurd. What these companies that they're doing in the United States, they're reselling what they got from Alibaba. So I can buy it on Alibaba myself for $2,300 to $4,000. So I'm buying from there. If you buy a certain quantity of these items, they will brand it for you. Companies like Yeti does not make their ice chests. They buy the ice chest on Alibaba's website for like $50. And they have Alibaba put Yeti on it, and they ship them here, and they keep them in warehouses, and they sell them online to you, and they ship them from the United States to your doorstep, but they stockpile them. So just
they pay $50?
$50. You can go on there. One of those tumbler mugs that say Yeti, you buy the exact same one for like $6. They sell them to the general public here. The only difference is, if you buy it directly from Alibaba, it takes you a month to get. If you buy it from Yeti, since they already shipped 1 million of them into their warehouses, it takes 8 days. And also, the only thing that they're doing is just advertising it. But Alibaba is eBay for manufacturers to put their products that they manufacture. I mean, I'm talking every single thing in the world. So when you're thinking about opportunity, that's a great opportunity. That's something that I'm looking into. How do I find really good products that I really enjoy, that I could put my own label on, market it to the general public, and start reselling those products here in the United States? So that's one thing that I'm looking at.
Which is something a lot of people can do just to start from home, from their garage.
Anyone can do that. I mean, literally anyone. You could start a hat company. You could buy, a really awesome phone charger that's wireless. And I mean, like, these things are like $8 on Alibaba. And the only difference between a Mophie juice pack is that they bought it first and they shipped it here, and they're shipping from the United States. And that's kind of a problem in our society. People want things right now. Mm-hmm. So even though I'm even telling you this and you could buy it for $8, you're probably still going to go on and pay $100 for a Mophie juice pack for your phone here in the United States. But it's just a great avenue. I would encourage you to look into that. That's a great avenue. Another thing that I'm doing right now is I'm looking at Airbnb properties. I own a lot of Airbnbs. I actually bought a small ski lodge in Tahoe, and I'm doing more of those. To give you an example, I own multiple multi-units downtown Sacramento. For a duplex, a duplex would run you about $800,000 to $850,000 right now in downtown for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath duplex. Okay, your mortgage payment on that is going to be somewhere around like $4,500. Okay, so you can take cash out of your current house and purchase an investment duplex on Airbnb for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit. I'm getting about $5,700 per unit per month. So you talk about cash flow. That's an awesome avenue. Not only are you paying down your mortgage, paying the whole entire mortgage, but you're also generating cash flow, and you get a massive write-off called depreciation. A depreciation write-off you only get through an investment property. It's way better than mortgage interest on your primary residence. Way better. So that's a phenomenal avenue. Look at those opportunities. Research different areas. Every single night I go on and I look up every single market in the United States. I'm looking at Tennessee right now. I'm looking at Bodega Bay. I'm looking at Lake Tahoe. Anything that has 2 seasons, a summer and a winter. That's really the common denominator. Who goes somewhere during the summer and goes during the winter? Those absolutely crush it. I have a cabin in Incline Village about 5 years ago. I bought it for $550,000. It's worth $1.5 million now. It generates about $20,000 a month of cash flow from that one property. So there's tons of places that you could be doing that at. And, there's a method. You don't just go into it blind. If you invest out of state, there's books that will teach you how to invest out of state. There's podcasts that teach you how to invest out of state. So there's a lot of avenues. Those are just to name a couple. But I love talking shop like this. This is what I love. educating people on this kind of stuff.
The thing that I love too about it, and I notice about you, is you, especially with the Alibaba example, you say, look, anyone can do this. But also what I've noticed in you is you want anyone to do it. You are not afraid of people being successful. In fact, I think you genuinely root for them. And when you get passionate and you talk like this, that's what I feel is I feel like you're actually literally trying to reach through their earbuds and say, you really can do this and you should.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Yeah.
And I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate you doing this with me today.
Totally.
Too.
I love it.
Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it. You are easily one of the 2-3 all-time favorite guests when you come on the show. People love hearing your advice, your answers, but also your motivation. So thanks a lot for doing the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It. So it's Shelby Elias, United Wholesale Lending, and online at financewithshelby.com.
The RAD pROBcast. Did you enjoy this episode of the RAD pROBcast? Send an email to rad@radradio.com. A new episode of the pROBcast premieres anytime Rob feels like doing one.